Hello, everyone. Welcome to Module 1. I'm Dr. Zeynep Etag, and today we're going to talk about conflict management process, and different conflict management styles. I would like to start with defining what a conflict is, what are different types of conflicts, how do we categorize conflicts, which conflicts are functional and which conflicts are dysfunctional, what is the relationship between conflict and team performance, and what is the process of conflict, and what kind of different management styles we can use to resolve conflict. To define conflict, it is a serious disagreement between two parties or ideas. I mentioned here ideas because sometimes we feel a conflict within ourselves. If I'm in a dilemma between multiple different projects or values or ideas, I may be having a conflict, but the focus of this class is more so on the conflict that takes place between two or more different sides or parties. Now, conflict is a process. It's not a static event. It starts when I observe that somebody else, another party, is about to do something or has already done something that will harm the resources that I care about. They already did something that will negatively affect me, or they're about to do something that will negatively affect me. The moment I observe, perceive, or feel the negativity, we can say that the conflict is already out there. The process has mainly 5 steps. 1, the presence of certain antecedents, causes of conflict in the environment. It can be personality differences. It can be limited resources that multiple parties are competing for. It can be that we have incompatible goals. Sometimes in an organization, finance people want to collect customer payments as fast as possible, while the marketing people try to spread out the customer payments as much as they can so that they can sell more products by providing better payment options to them. So sometimes different individuals may have different goals, work goals, and other times we may interpret facts or company policies differently. Think Republicans and Democrats, they look at the same thing in the Constitution or in some sort of a law, and they interpret them completely differently. So think in the same way, in an organization, we may be interpreting corporate goals, corporate values, or policies differently, causing us to react in different ways. And sometimes we have disagreements about what kind of a product standard should we have, or what kind of an expectation different departments or different team members should have from each other. So all of these antecedents will sometimes lead to creation of conflict. Now, conflict can be perceived or felt. Sometimes we perceive it first, we see somebody doing something, and then later we get frustrated or upset about it. And sometimes it's the other way around. We feel the conflict, we feel some sort of a negativity. We don't exactly know why, but later we can put our finger on it and perceive the reason for that conflict. Then the conflict management styles get into the picture. Based on whatever conflict management styles I can use or I'm able to use, I will take some sort of an action. My behavior, my action will cause a reaction in the other. And that person's behavior will also interact with mine. So this type of an interactive behavior will lead to some sort of an outcome for the conflict. It may be a decrease or an increase in our personal or team performance. Now, not all conflict is bad. As managers or as human beings, our job is not to eliminate or prevent conflict. That would not be in our best interest. Some conflicts are functional. They support the goals of the group, they increase the team performance and the quality of our work, but some are dysfunctional conflicts. Those are the types of the conflicts that hinder the group performance, that destroy the group atmosphere. Those are the type of conflicts we want to interfere with. But functional conflict, when we see it, we don't want to interfere with it or stop it. Rather, we can keep an eye on it and see if it's getting out of hand. So as managers, we want to take action about dysfunctional conflict, not necessarily about functional conflict. We like it as managers. Before we explain what is a functional, what is a dysfunctional conflict further, let's talk about different conflict types. Based on its location, where the conflict is, we can talk about 4 different types of conflict. One of them is intrapersonal. You have different ideas or different projects that you are torn between. We call it intrapersonal conflict. The second one is a conflict that happens between 2 people. We call it interpersonal conflict. 2 parties may have, again, different goals, different understandings of policies, or different expectations from each other, causing this type of an interpersonal conflict. Another type is intragroup conflict. This happens within a group among multiple different team members. And finally, intergroup is the conflict that happens between multiple groups. Think about 2 competing teams or 2 competitor companies. Based on the issues that are involved in the conflict, we can create 3 different categorizations. One is task conflict. This is conflict over content or goals of the work. For instance, here in this picture, you can see that 2 people are working on a prototype. They can disagree. They can sort of fight quite seriously about how to design, where to put that handle or not to put a particular component into the prototype. We call this the task conflict. Second type is a relationship conflict. This is an interpersonal conflict where people make it personal. We dislike each other. It may be the personality clash. It may be something you said that offended me, but we don't like each other. We don't want to be in the presence of each other or work with each other. The third one is a process conflict. This is a conflict where 2 people or 2 sides don't agree on a particular process to follow or how to go around completing a particular work. One may say, no, I think after first 2 steps, we shouldn't do this thing here. For instance, one may argue we need to talk to this particular stakeholder to get their input, and the other party may say, no, we shouldn't involve them in the process, decision-making process early on. Maybe at the end, we can ask their, feedback to make it look like we are getting some information from them. So here, 2 people are not necessarily disagreeing on the task, or there's nothing personal going on, but they disagree on the specific process to follow to complete their work. Now, we know that task conflict is almost always good in moderation because it improves the way we design our products, the quality of the work improves. If we are arguing about how to fix that product, how to create a new design, or how to better serve our customers, almost always the end result will be a good output as a result of team brainstorming and dialogue. Although this should be moderation, not extremely high to the level that it becomes a very hectic environment where we can't even make any decisions anymore. And also research shows and experience shows that relationship conflict is almost always harmful and dysfunctional. So if we are observing something personal going on, or a particular task conflict or a process conflict is turning into a relationship conflict or a relationship problem, we need to handle that and resolve that as quickly as we can. Now, let's look at the level of conflict on job performance. There are separate types of research, both about individual performance and team performance, and we see the similar curves in both. This is the level of conflict here, going from low to high. And here is the individual or team performance, low performance to going all the way to high performance. Please observe that as the level of conflict goes up, the unit performance goes up as well, which means that we are brainstorming, we're talking, we are exchanging information, we're improving our design, improving our processes, final results. However, It peaks at one point. This is moderate level of task conflict. After that moderate level, if the conflict continues to move to the high side, as you can see, the unit performance starts going down, individual or team performance. The reason is it may be extremely difficult to make any decisions, agree on anything, and also the extreme levels of task conflict may be turning into personal and relationship conflict. Thus, we see that moderate levels of task conflict is good for team performance and individual performance. But if it gets too much, if it's beyond moderate levels, the team and individual performance starts going down. So you can see the inverted U curve. Now, there are 5 different conflict management styles, and I would really like you to examine this slide in detail and make sure you are clear about what each of them are and when should we use each of these. We have a contingency approach to conflict management styles, which means that each of these styles have different values in different contexts. So there will be times that you need to compete, there will be times that you have to collaborate, and there will be times that I would suggest just avoid this whole situation. So, which means that based on different contingencies, based on different contexts and situational factors, we need to pick and choose the most effective conflict management style. For teams, we know that the most effective conflict management style is collaborating, but other than that, really it depends on the situation. Now, what are these styles? Competing is basically not caring too much about what's going to happen to the other party, but we are really out there to get as much as we can. We're assertive. We won't collaborate with anyone. We won't cooperate. We will just go convince the other party as much as we want that we want this and this only, and we will use all kinds of persuasion tactics and evidence to support our point to get as much as we want in something. It doesn't matter what's happening as a result to the other party. Now, if there's a situation where there's a need for quick and decisive action, there isn't time to talk and do participative decision making, you can compete, basically just make the decision and impose on the other individuals. And if you're 100% sure that you are right and whatever you're doing is in the best interest of all the parties involved, you want to compete, just impose that and move on. Think about sports team. Obviously, Lakers doesn't care, what's going to happen to the other party if they win. You're out there to get it and you compete. Collaborating is when you are interested in making the other party satisfied with the results. You want to establish a longer term relationship. Maybe this party is a company you have been working for the last few years together and you want to continue working together. You want to make sure that in a particular conflict, they feel heard and they feel like you heard them and helped them with whatever they need, and vice versa. You also want to achieve what you want. So collaboration is the style that leads to win-win deals where both parties get as much as what they can. When should you use that? When different parties' concerns and needs and demands are equally important, you need to collaborate. You can't impose decisions on them. Also, when you trust each other, you can collaborate. If you don't trust this party at all, they have been deceptive or unethical, you gotta be very careful if you're collaborating because they can deceive you again. But in business relationships where you want both your company to be successful, you want both you and your team members to be successful, you're all working together, you're a part of the same department, you want to collaborate with these people. Avoiding is basically withdrawing, not even getting into an argument or a negotiation, just ignoring the whole situation and suppressing and hoping that it will go away, I guess. You can avoid only if you want to take a short break to think and do some research before you negotiate or resolve your conflict. Otherwise, suppressing any conflict is not going to make it any better. As a matter of fact, avoiding many times will make everything so much harder and worse. So we don't recommend avoiding too much, except if you need some time to think and do research and prepare before you go and have a discussion, you can avoid for a while. The second is the situation is really trivial. You don't even care what's going to happen. So you can think my time and effort is not worth the potential outcome of this conflict resolution. So you can just avoid and ignore. It's not even important. Accommodating is getting into a negotiation, some sort of a discussion, a meeting with the other party in conflict. However, taking care of all their needs and interests, giving up everything to their demands, making a lot of concessions at the cost of your needs and interests. Basically, I'm giving away everything, whatever they want, I say yes, and I don't think about what I'm going to get out of this negotiation. Potentially, I won't get much. This is only good if the issue is really trivial, you don't care, plus you really want to make the other party appreciate how much you care about them. Maybe this is just a personal relationship, like a friendship where you don't have any other expectation. You just want them to be happy with you and like you. So your harmonious relationship is important, so you can just accommodate and give everything they want. Finally, compromising is some sort of a give and take type of a relationship, but we need to be very careful to differentiate collaboration from compromising. In collaboration, you can give and take based on different parties' needs as well. You can say, hey, while collaborating, you can say, if you give me this, which I really care about, I'll give you the other thing, which you really care about. That will be collaboration. In compromising, rather, parties don't necessarily understand each other's underlying needs in detail. They don't change information too much. They don't share a lot of information and discuss for long periods of time. So compromising is a more premature way of meeting in the middle. So you say, you know what? I'm going to give up a little bit on my demands. You give up a little bit on your demands. So let's meet in the middle. This is different than collaborating, which is giving and taking some sort of log rolling based on the underlying interests and different priorities, while compromising is basically saying, I asked for $100. You said, I'm going to give you $50. Let's meet in $75. So it's a completely arbitrary middle point. It's a give and take, sort of like I'll give up 50%, you give up 50%, but it is not done based on different priorities or underlying interests. When do you want to compromise? If the affected individual will be satisfied with whatever they're getting, they are not really very ambitious or assertive. They're not really out there to get a great price or a great deal out of this. And they're like, yeah, let's meet in the middle. We don't really mind. And the second time where we can compromise, you can try to collaborate as much as you did. You're talking and you're sort of stuck. There's no way to enlarge the win-win aspect of this conflict resolution. We can just say, oh, you know what? Let's just meet in the middle and move on because this is taking too long. Now, again, based on the contingency approach to conflict management, I would like you to be able to move from one conflict management style to another. There will be situations in a team environment or in a family or a long-term business relationship. I want you to be very collaborative. Or sometimes you can compete. You can, if there are limited resources and there's only one party who can, in every potentiality, there's only one party who's going to get those resources. You need to compete, and you shouldn't avoid if it's an important conflict for you. If it's very trivial, you don't want to spend any of your valuable time on it, you can avoid. If it's a family or a personal relationship, you can accommodate. But other than that, the most important thing that I'd like you to practice in these 4 weeks are: one, if you have to get a lot of resources, how do we compete and win now, which we will cover distributive strategies. Two, if this is an important relationship, a business relationship or a team environment, how do we collaborate and make sure we are investing in our long-term relationship? We are both getting as much as we can in this conflict resolution. So I'd like you to practice each of these different styles. Before I let you go, I'd like to remind you that I have a discussion post right now. When you go to discussion number 1, you will see that there is a particular self-assessment questionnaire that looks into your conflict management styles. I would like you to identify your scores for each of these conflict management styles and take a look at the discussion questions on the discussion forum. I'd like you to do your post responding to each of those discussion questions, and also remember to respond to 2 other students' discussions as well to be graded, and I'll see you next time.